Hello friends and welcome back. In our first video, we covered different user roles in WordPress, the capabilities and what the admin dashboard looks like for each role. In this video, I'll walk you through the classes, functions and methods that manage these user roles and capabilities in WordPress. Right now, I have got these files open in the editor. Let's start with the WP roles class, which you can find in the WP includes folder. This class is used to work with the roles API. It lets you add and remove roles and manage their capabilities. This class also handles where the users get their roles and their capabilities from, which option name to fetch them from. And if you recall, in the database, there is an option called WP user roles. The name of this option is based on the table prefix. In the multi-site, the structure depends on the subsite, like WP underscore to underscore. Now, how this option name is built and used to fetch user roles from the options table. Let's break it down step by step. We have some public properties like roles, roles object, roles names, role key. Role key is what we use for the option name to store and retrieve the roles list from the options table. Then there is useDB, which tells if we want to use the database for saving and fetching data, and that will always be true. Whenever a new role is added or any custom capabilities are modified or removed from the existing roles, those changes are saved into the database along with site ID for each role. In a multi-site setup, the site ID helps identify which site the role belongs to. When the class is constructed, we also use a global variables WP user roles, which holds the list of all the roles. Now, for the site ID, the forSite method in the constructor is called. This method checks for the current site ID, and if it's a multi-site network, it retrieves the current blog ID. First, based on the site ID, we get a prefix that gets added to the user role's option name. This helps us build a role key, which is then used to fetch the user roles from the database options table. If you look at the get roles data part, it checks if the network is a multi-site, and if it is, then it will use the get blog option instead of the regular get option. Next, in the forSite, it initializes everything. Once all the roles are fetched, they get separated into role objects and names. The WP role class is then used to manage these roles in a different way. We'll also have a look at the WP role class. It comes with actions and filters allowing you to trigger actions when roles are initialized or let plugins add their own roles. You could use these actions to add your custom roles. There are also a few functions like the add role method. This method adds a new role to the database, saving the role name and capabilities into the options table. It basically creates a new WP role object and returns it. With this, you can add a new role. You also have a method to remove the roles using remove role method. If the role already exists, it will be removed from the options table. But if the role is a default role, then it will revert back to the subscriber role instead. For custom access, you should always add custom rules for different users. You should not remove the default roles because they get automatically added with each new version update. It's a good idea to add custom rules to manage specific access needs. You shouldn't delete the default ones. You can modify the default rules as needed. For example, if you want to allow a contributor to publish posts, you can simply add that capability to the contributor role. To add this capability, you can use the add cap function. It takes the role name and the capability as its argument. It checks if the role has the access to it. By default, it's set to true. If it's set to false, the capability won't be available and the change will be saved in the database. This capability setting will also get updated in the options table. Alright, let's break this down simply. In the options table, the data is stored in a serialized format. But when you unserialize it, it turns into an array. This array includes the role's name, the display name, and the capabilities showing whether the capabilities are set to true or false. Now, when working with WordPress roles, you can use the add cap method to add capabilities to a role and remove cap to take them away. There is also a get role method which helps you retrieve a specific role object or a WP role class object. If you want to list the role names, you can use the get names method. This is useful, for example, when you have a drop-down that displays all the available roles, like here in the admin dashboard. You can also use isRole method to check if something is a valid role. There are a few other functions in the WP roles class too. Next, let's look at the WP role class, which is used to extend the roles API. The WP role class has properties like name, capabilities, and the construct method. It also has functions like add cap, remove cap, and has cap. The has cap function checks if a role has a specific capability. There is also a filter role has cap which lets you programmatically modify, allow, or disallow capabilities. Every role has an object of the WP role class. The remove cap and has cap methods are used to remove and check capabilities. The add cap method calls the add cap function from the WP roles class object. The WP roles function simply returns the current WP roles class object. We use the WP role class method to add or remove capabilities from both newly added and existing roles. Now, there is also a file called capabilities.php included in the WP includes folder. This file contains all the functions you can use to add or remove roles and check if the current user has a specific capability. For example, this one function, map metacap, which I'll explain in more detail later because it's very important. Then there is a function current user can, which we use to check if the currently logged in user has a specific capability. For instance, in the movie library's movie.php file, we have implemented a custom metavox and registered a callback function on save post movie action. Here, we check if the current user has edit access. If they do, then only they can update the metadata in the database. If not, the data won't be saved in the database. The current user can function is used to check if the current user has this access. Behind the scenes, the current user can uses the user can function, with the key difference being the current user can accepts two arguments, capabilities and args, where args can include a variety of arguments like meta capabilities or object IDs such as post, term, or page IDs. The user can function, on the other hand, is a wrapper for current user can and takes three arguments, the current user object, the capability being checked, and any additional arguments. It will check if the current user is an object or get their use data if an ID is passed. It then calls the hasCap method of that user, checking the capability against the passed arguments. For example, if an author only has access to their own posts, WordPress will check if the logged in author's post ID matches the ID of the post they are trying to access. If it doesn't match, then the user won't have that access. I'll go into the user has kept method step by step later, but for now, let's look at the other available functions and classes. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Jai WordPress.